Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm your host, Manjula Salvaraja. In our first segment, we'll air our interview with Toronto author Koom Kankesan. In our second segment, we find out how to go into a room and network effectively with prolific author, speaker, coach Donna Messer, and the Canadian Tamil Alumni Association. Then in our final segment, we'll hear about the upcoming 10th International Tamil Film Festival. If you'd like to call in with a question or comment, our number is 416-623-8100. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing Koom Kankesan, the Toronto-based author of The Panic Button. Here is my interview with Koom.
I think the thing that's most Tamil that's defined my being a writer is it's so difficult because you have nobody to really kind of show you the ropes. If you're Italian Canadian or you're Jewish or something like that, there are other writers, there are other intellectual, cultural people who you can kind of connect with, or you can send an email to say, hey, I'm a writer and can you give me some tips and stuff like that. There was nobody like that for me, so all of my teachers were white, and I'm just glad that they liked my writing and they encouraged me for that reason. But you know, my parents didn't, like, they had no idea what it was to be a writer. I mean, they had no idea. So whenever I told relatives I was interested in writing, they'd say, oh, so you want to be a journalist? That was the closest they could come to making a connection. I think of myself as Tamil. I don't think of myself as South Asian because there are a lot of South Asian books and authors in vogue that I don't really connect to. The writers I really connect to are R.K. Narayan, who's Indian Tamil. I love him because of his sense of humor and his ability to get Tamil voices down. And I remember first reading my first R.K. Narayan book and going, I have never read anything like this before. This is incredible. Why was this not exposed to me when I was young? Because not just as a writer, but as a human being, this completely just opens me up in a different way. And then I really like Jhumpa Lahiri because I don't think she has that kind of romantic, sweet South Asian writing style. I think she's got a very precise, kind of clean, it's very American in some ways, just brilliant, kind of scintillating insight that I really appreciate. That's really a question that has two answers in my mind. I think one would be when I was a kid, my dad would get me to go to the library every week, and I think that's the best thing he ever did for me because I love that ritual of taking my stack of books and taking as many home back and sitting at the library and reading through books. And I just remember thinking how great stories were and how much time I would spend in them. And I also, it'd be so great to, you know, do this, to like then give a story back to the world or to create something that other people would enjoy. So I think there was that, and I remember as a kid kind of making a book of my own and saying to my parents, it was basically copied out of other books that I liked. It was like a book of explorers or something, and I wrote the text mostly by, I think, copying the facts out of other books and drawing illustrations. And I said to my dad, like, can we get this printed? And I was only about 6 years old. It was a very kind of naive thing. And my dad, in very typical Tamil, kind of practical, hardened, you know, mode, said, do you know how much it costs to get a book printed? And so that was quashed. And later on, you know, I was encouraged to become a doctor like most Tamils, and I kind of just assumed that was going to happen. But towards the end of high school, I really didn't want to do that, and that interest in literature really came back in a big way. And so I finished high school, and I kind of knew I wanted to be a writer, just didn't know how. And so I've been trying to do that ever since. The Panic Button is, as far as we know, the first book of fiction about Tamil immigrants living in Canada. It's about a family living in Scarborough, Toronto, and the main character's name is Thambi, or his nickname is Thambi, Tharmaratnam. And he's got an older brother who's getting an arranged marriage, although it's kind of more of a modern arranged marriage because his brother's found his wife. And they live with their mother. They left Sri Lanka about 25 years ago to escape the war. The dad himself couldn't get out, although the rest of the family did. And now finally, the brother who's getting married and his wife have put up the money to get an agency to bring him over legally, and they're bringing him over in time for the wedding. And so Thambi's kind of dealing with all this, and it's about the time rolling down to the wedding, counting down to the wedding, and he's kind of questioning. He's kind of a very honest kind of person who feels pulled in different directions, and he's questioning his role in all of this. And then while this is going on, he starts seeing a woman at work secretly. She's white and probably not the best choice for him. And so it's about the pot boiling moments as things get closer, and then the final wedding. Well, it's not really based on my life. A lot of people who read it seem to just naturally assume it is, which is a huge mistake in fiction, because the joy of writing fiction as opposed to nonfiction or a memoir is you can play with things. This is a story, I think, that's just kind of built up organically with my own feeling. I mean, obviously the feeling of the book is true to me, and it kind of comes out of my heart. And so it's just kind of built up over time, and I wanted to make the character not like myself, so I gave him a very different job and a very different station in life, a very different family and a very different family history. And it's really hard for me to answer that, because writing fiction is a way of kind of finding yourself through the story, kind of trying out different things and seeing what feels right and fits right, and most importantly, seems real. Oh, it's got a very strong commendation by Alan Moore, who's a great comic book and fiction writer and just a really great intellectual, you know, on his own. And everybody who's read it, most of the reactions I've heard are great. Like, they've enjoyed it. They found it very different than other books. They found it very frank. They found it very real, quite intense, which is what I've gone for. But I'm always kind of looking for more feedback, because I think that's the reward of writing. You do a lot in isolation, and you want people to let you know. A lot of people have told me that it resonates with them, and that's the most important thing, whether they're men or women. I've heard that. And especially because the character's life isn't exactly like mine. It's quite different in many ways. It's really good to hear that, because then you know the character is alive and real. And when it got picked up, I was almost surprised, like I didn't quite believe it. And in the time kind of moving down to that, I rewrote it extensively. It just really regalvanized me. When it came time for the book launch itself, I was so nervous. Like, I just kind of kept on getting more and more stiff, and I thought it was just stress from work. I didn't really realize it until the night before the launch. I could not sleep at all, and at 3 a.m. I walked a block down the street to St. Michael's Hospital, and a doctor in the emergency ward gave me anti-inflammatories and painkillers to help me get through the next 24 hours. But I was literally like this, you know. It was nervous.
What a way to celebrate.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. This is just a passage from towards the end of the book. My main character, Thambi, has no memories of his father as a young child. So it's like he's meeting his father for the first time when he comes to Canada, and he has no memories. He was 4 when he left Sri Lanka. But towards the very end of the book, during like a moment of crisis, he has this image, this memory of images that come back. As you know, our earliest memories are really images. They're not words, they're not conversations. And it's when he was a kid with his father on the beach, and it's kind of a sense of his father who's kind of more innocent, more young, more loving, not ravaged by 25 years of war and staying in Sri Lanka. That's kind of much more sweet, and he feels a kind of poignancy in kind of remembering that. Unbidden, a memory came back to me. When I was very young, I was at the beach with my father. Barefoot, the sand in Sri Lanka a sparkling white. The roll of the waves and the spume, the warm tropical air and the breeze. Coconut trees leaning toward the water over the sand. My father carries some meat from the market, wrapped up in wax paper and string. The package is smooth and glazed, it reflects the sun. Somewhere out of nowhere, I have cut my foot. Somehow, some sharp object, a piece of glass, a rock, something, has found itself in my skin. It is not just a cut, but a gash. I feel like I can smell my own blood. I can taste it on the air, and it makes me dizzy. The soft flesh, the padding underneath my soul has been cut. I start to go down. My father is there in an instant. Appa lifts me up, holds me with his hip, balances me against his shoulder. He bucks me up and smiles, eases the pain, talks to me. What is he saying? At first he drops the meat, but then he picks it up with his other hand. He finds a flat place and sits us down there, nudging away the hurt. And then the astonishing thing, he sucks on the wound. He holds the wound in the foot closed, and with his other hand unties the package. The cold meat comes out, and it is applied to my foot. Then, throwing away the meat, he takes the wax paper and wraps it around my foot and uses the string to tie it up. He has big fingers, is clumsy, nervous not to show his fear. Does not do a very good job wrapping my foot. The wax paper crackles against my leg, sliding uncomfortably. The string is messy and caught up. The blood falls away to the sand. I love him for it anyway. On top of being a priest, he has a store and he's a real estate agent, and he sells. The father is so anxious to have a house. He wants to have some, he wants land. Yes, land and face and dignity. And so this awful priest, he gets him to buy a house with no money down. And you remember that financial crisis that came, right? And so they're paying an exorbitant mortgage, and all of the money's going to the interest, and so they're just like, working hand in mouth to pay this, poor people. I've never been able to really make much money off my writing. My books made a tiny bit of money, and especially if somebody buys a book from me myself, then I get a couple of dollars in my pocket, which is great. But by and large, I've gotten a few things published in the newspaper and magazines here and there, but by and large, I've never been able to support myself. So it's something that I do because I'm hungry, and it's a labor of love, and that's a good thing. I don't mind doing that, but the job that I do to pay the bills is high school teaching, and it's a job that's extremely inimical to writing because it's an extremely stressful job. Most people think teachers have a good life, but you're on constant stress alert, like 24 hours a day in your classes, but also there's lots of politics, there's a lot of harshness. I'm always lesson planning as an English teacher, making new handouts, and the marking is voluminous. Classes are very big now. Our public school system is crumbling. It's a very difficult job, so it's very difficult to write while doing that job. This is a question to all Tamils, so not just the Tamils reading novels or like the cultural elite Tamils, but to all Tamils. How would you feel about reading a book that is set during that year in Toronto, 2008 to 2009, that kind of deals with those protests? It doesn't just deal with them only, but they do interweave and they do overlap with the events that go on in the book. They intersect. Would that be a book you'd be interested in reading? The most important thing when it comes to work and life is to find meaning. My parents are kind of getting to that stage where they're thinking about being retired, and my mom often says to me, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I always say, you used to be an artist. You used to be an art teacher when you were very young, before you got married. Why don't you paint? She hasn't painted in decades, and it just doesn't appeal to her because she doesn't have that sense that I have to do this to kind of have meaning in my life, and that's important in a way that's different than money or security, what have you.
So here's that book again, The Panic Button. I certainly recommend it, and it seems like Alan Moore, the author of Watchmen and V for Vendetta. Watchmen, by the way, is one of my top 10 favorite books of all time. He's actually given Koom a wonderful recommendation that's at the back of the book. So there you go. Stay with us. You're watching Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Selvarajah. Welcome back to Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Selvarajah. Networking. Everyone knows that they have to do it. Your friends are telling you, your coworkers are telling you, and the many books you read are telling you that this is something that's important. But we all have very busy lives. How can we do this effectively? Well, let's find out. Donna Messer is a recognized author, speaker, and coach on this topic. She speaks extensively across North America on networking to large audiences, execs in boardrooms, and the individuals she coaches. I've been in rooms where she's been called the queen of networking. Among her 5 books as a published author is Effective Networking Strategies. Fantastic book, one of my favorites, and it's a Canadian bestseller. Vaitheki Tharmaratnam is a technology consultant with Accenture and the Director of Communications for the Canadian Tamil Alumni Association. Thank you for being here.
I'm thrilled.
It's good to have you as well, Vaitheki.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
So when we were talking right before you came on, you had this concept in networking of the we versus the me.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Okay, I'm going to explain it. Networking is not about changing business cards. It is not about, here's my card, buy my product or service, get me a job, introduce me to your friends. Networking, truthfully, is finding out a little bit about the person you're speaking to and then getting them a gift of someone or something that will add value to them, because you want them to come back to you. So let me give you some examples. I brought with me a couple of things that I think would be valuable to the people who are in your audience and to the alumni. So the first thing I brought with me is Discovery 2012. Discovery 2012 was for all cultures at an academic level of PhD, postdoc, master, and they were all able to come together to find out how they could benefit. Now, I did the moderation for a Guinness World Record, which was set. We did 4,000 business connections, 4,000 in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
Now, how did we do that? What we did was we told everybody in advance, you have 3 questions that you are going to ask, you have 3 minutes that you can ask them in, and you must make notes and recognize that you're going to come back to that person. So everyone who was in the room was pre-registered, and they had to follow up. They had to say thank you. They had to say, this is what we learned from you, and they had to make sure that everyone understood that networking has a measurable result, and that measure should be good for both sides. So that was one. The second one is I have this consumer trends. The consumer trends are really, really important, particularly when you find out the top consumer trend for this year is the South Asian population and what the impact is on hotels, restaurants, food, all kinds of things. Now, it's possible that some of the people who are listening go, aha, this is really good for me. So they don't care who I am. All they want to know is who I know and what I know and how I'm willing to share that knowledge. So the we is about, I want to get to know you. I ask questions. The questions I ask are not about me, but about who I might know that I can give to you. And when I give you a gift of who I know, I've already said to that person, if I make the connection, there will be a benefit for both sides. That's networking.
You know, that's you've set that up a wonderful way. I mean, it's this idea that when you walk into a room, you don't think, well, what's in it for me?
Exactly.
But you walk in to say, well, what can I give these people?
Exactly.
Which in turn one day will come back to give back to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually learned that from you at a speaking session about a decade ago, I think, and it served me really well. So I'm bought into that. So let me take that to the other topic that you talked about, which is when it comes specifically to the Canadian Tamil community. You mentioned that we already network within our families and within our extended families. Talk to me about that, about the fact that we have skills at one level, but we need to take that to the next level.
Okay, I'm going to use an example, and I'm going to use my life as an example. We don't use our extended families because we just don't think about it. But however, I was out speaking, and someone said to me, well, what does your what does your family do? And I thought, well, who cares? And they said, no, seriously, what does your dad do? And I said, well, he's the president of the Auto Workers Union for Chrysler. And they went, wow. All of a sudden, I recognized that our families and our extended families can be as important as who we are. So in the Tamil community, think about not who they are, but what they represent. Because what they represent could be valuable to someone like me. So as an example, if we think about who you are and the fact that you're alumni, I'm already speaking to an awful lot of universities where there are Tamil people as alumnus. So maybe, just maybe, we're already connected and I can give you something that would add value to your alumni. Cool. Okay. So I'm suggesting that using the family and the extended family, start looking at people like me as extended family. I can be your aunt. I could be your fairy godmother. But truthfully, we have to expand, and we as non-Tamils want to know who Tamils are. We want to know more about them. I read about you this morning so that I could understand a little bit more about what your culture is like so that I can help you to recognize how easy it is to use networking. It is the single most effective way to get whatever you want, whenever you want.
Well, that's a good thing to hear because, there was a worrying report that I read in the Toronto Star last week. There's been a bit of conversation about it. There's over 1 million youth, Canadian youth, I think that's for the first time ever the number's been that high, that are unemployed. Mm-hmm. And, I find that sometimes within the community, if we don't have, because a lot of us are first-gen, second-gen mm-hmm. immigrants, we may not have those kind of connections to link into. So networking could be a skill we could leverage. So explain to me how the youth, mm-hmm. and especially immigrant youth, can leverage networking to get past those barriers.
I'll tell you exactly, because again, I can use an example. I work with all kinds of organizations where they bring youth together. So Rotary clubs, chambers of commerce, junior chambers of commerce, all kinds of really young groups, okay? And they bring me in to talk to these kids. Now, I was at something not too long ago where there were a bunch of young people, all of whom had come from other countries. And 2 of them had come from the Middle East, and a couple had come from Asia, and some had come from South Asia. And each of them said, our parents want us too. We would like to do something different. Can you help us? And I said, as long as we're not going against what your parents want, but add value to what your parents want, I can help you. So there's an opportunity for youth to co-op. Co-op positions are phenomenal. Gives them Canadian experience, gets them to work with a Canadian company, and I have kids on a regular basis. My next 2 co-ops that are coming in are new Canadians, and I am going to learn how to work with them, and they're going to learn how to work with me. So if I could give anything to young kids, and I'm saying young from high school to university to anyone, get involved, show where your talents are, and if your English isn't perfect, the best way to perfect your English is to get out there and use it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one of the things, and we'll get to you in a minute, Vaitheki, about organizations like the Canadian Tamil Alumni Association, is that there are a set of professionals now, a segment that are actually doing really well for themselves, and they come to events like this. So I'm trying to figure out, for people that are listening, young people that mm-hmm. are listening, and even established professionals that are listening, what are those sort of varied spaces and places that they can go to network? Because people obviously just think, well, I'll just call my friends. Or they think, I'll just go to, I'm an engineer, I'll go to an engineering association. But there's actually a variety of places that they can do this. Perhaps you can speak to that. I know your book has a great section on that. So.
Well, I would certainly look at the associations that are within your area of expertise. So the engineers, certainly go to the Engineers Association. I'm speaking on the 12th of June, and the girl who's bringing me in, she spends most of her time on robotics with university and high school kids. So now she comes from another country. I think she's Middle Eastern. And the kids who are going to be there are coming from everywhere. And I'm going to be speaking to them. So there's a good organization. Churches, wherever you meet, that is a good place to go. So if I would also say Rotary clubs. Now, in every country, there are Rotarians. My recommendation is go to a Rotary Club in wherever you live. And maybe there's 2 or 3, go and say, I'd just like to learn who's there. Now they're going to be all races, all creeds, all religions, and they are going to be welcoming you because you are like them. People like people who are like themselves. They buy from them, they sell to them, they hire them, they refer them. Find a way to get involved in something where you can show how talented you are and that you can share a little bit of your culture, because knowing who you are and what your culture is about helps us if we don't know who you are. So if we can share things, if we can talk about things, what we do is we find our common ground, and that makes a big difference.
So here's we'd love some advice from you. So I've been to CTAA events and they're fabulous. I find that it's a great way to meet professionals that are not doing what you're doing. You know, a PR specialist who actually ended up helping me do something. So I find that it's that nice, you have the university students, the college students, but you also have these established professionals. But one of the most common questions my nieces and nephews ask me is, I'm going to walk into the room. What do I do? And how do I not go and stand with the 5 or the 10 people that I know? So do you have sort of practical tips on how they can get the most out of that evening?
I do. So I'm just going to do them very quickly. First of all, it depends on your style. If you're a person who likes to talk to anybody, well then you're going to have it easy. But 75% of the world do not feel comfortable going up and speaking to a stranger. So if there is food, go and stand in the line where the food is. People will talk to you while you're waiting for food. They may talk about what the food looks like, but they will talk to you. The way to break the ice is to say, have you ever been to one of these events before? Doesn't matter who you ask. They're going to say one of 2 things, yes or no. If they say yes, you say, I haven't. Could you tell me a little bit about what to expect? They are then talking to you, they're giving you information, and they're feeling comfortable. If you listen, something that they say will give you the opportunity not only to say thank you, but to say, well, I am. Now, if you're going to introduce yourself, you want to introduce yourself with something you want back. So if I say, hi, my name is Donna Messer, I come from Oakville, I'm going to reach out like this to shake a hand. Your handshake is important. Chances are the person is going to look me in the eye and they're going to say, hi, my name is and I come from. Now you know that they come from a certain place. Start thinking, who do you know that's in that place? Hi, my name is Donna Messer and I graduated from the University of Toronto. Oh, my name is, and I actually took courses at the University of Toronto. So find that common ground.
Do that opening so that they can come back and say, well, actually, I'm from New York City, or I'm working in finance.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Actually, then you say, oh, finance. Well, I know someone in finance. And you build a relationship not on who you are, but who you know. And I'll give you a perfect example. I did an event for Alumni for Schulich. And they were from all countries, from all areas. And a girl came up to me afterwards and she said, I want you to come and speak to my organization. I said, oh, I'd love to. Where is it? And it was the Young Entrepreneurial Actors Association. Had nothing to do, but she's an actor.
Yes.
And I ended up speaking to 250 actors and actresses. Loved it.
Yeah.
So it's the network. She heard something, she decided that I would be good, and she brought me in. So it works. You want to know who I am, you want to know who I know, and then we build the relationship so that it continues. Now what will happen after I leave here, I will send you a note saying, thank you so much for having me on the show. Is there anything I can do to help you? I'm going to send you the 12 top consumer tips. I'm going to send you all the information about the discovery. I have a list of resources. I'm going to send that to you. And if anything you see is of interest, you say to me, Donna, I'd like an introduction. I then introduce you to that person and I hold them accountable. And that's the secret, accountability. If I just say, talk to so-and-so, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if I say, if I'm giving you something and I want to know that it worked, it will work. And what I'm going to give you right now is something called Ant Vibes, A-N-T-V-I-B-E-S. This, I think, is an amazing tool for your community. It is audible name tags. You can dial in and it's free if you say my name, and you can actually say your name over a telephone line and it will be recorded and it comes out as a little ant, and you can put it on your email signature, so that anytime you send out anything, I can click on that and I can hear your name say your name.
Oh, okay.
Because,
that's actually good, because I think sometimes people say Manjula Selvaraj and think, guy, girl. You know what I mean? How is it pronounced? And there's a little bit of,
absolutely.
You know, yeah.
So this is an opportunity for anyone, regardless of where they come from, to be able to say their name in such a way that whenever I hear it, I'm going to play it over and over again so that I learn how to pronounce that name. It's going to make me more valuable, and it's going to make you happier.
So that brings me to my last question for you, is, though we have tons that we could learn from you, I think that our audience will be interested in sort of taking that a step further. What sort of services do you offer that they can leverage? I mean, I know you do a lot of coaching, and I know you do a lot of speaking.
Well, I offer Dining with Donna. Now, Dining with Donna means that they have to come and buy my breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and they have to donate $100 to my favorite charity. They can pick my brains, they can do whatever they need to do during the time I'm with them, but they must donate that money, and they pay for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And it's generally in my community. I do a power team. I do an empower team, so they're kind of like masterminds. I do coaching one-on-one, and I also do something called a day with Donna. And a day with Donna is usually 10 people, all of whom want to find themselves. And we spend an entire day. We come up with an action plan, which has a deliverable on it, and you have 60 days in order to achieve those goals.
What's your website, Donna? Because some of the stuff is very compelling.
Yes, it's connectuscanada.com.
Okay.
And if you want to find me, all you do is type in my name.
Yes.
I am social media savvy. I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have LinkedIn. I have, my first website was in 1993. You can go donnamesser.com and see a bunch of stuff. I'm everywhere. I have Talk to Donna, which is a radio program. I have a YouTube channel. I am a person who recognizes that visibility gives you credibility, and credibility makes you profitable.
And that takes me, that's actually great transition to find out about CTAA. So tell us about the Alumni Association.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Donna, for your discussion. I think I should use the ant vibe for my email.
Yes.
So CTAA stands for Canadian Tamil Alumni. And basically, we're a non-profit organization that's geared towards professional individuals. So we offer workshops, seminars, professional networking events, and it's just a great opportunity to meet different people. And like you mentioned before, Manjula, it's really refreshing meeting individuals from different industries, whether it's in medical industry or finance, or it can be anything. And it's just really great being part of that organization.
Well, I found that's actually the most distinctive thing about your organization, is that when I walk in there, I have something in common with everyone, because not always, but typically people tend to be Canadian Tamil. So there's already that basis. And then I can go on to meet people that are doctors, chiropractors. You know, I met a PR specialist, I told you last time, that helped me with some work that I needed. So I like that variety. Now you have an event coming up that I know was sold out and quite amazing last year. So tell us about it. It's called the Toast to Success.
Yes. So the Toast to Success is our annual professional networking event. So what we usually do is we have a guest speaker, and this is a well-renowned individual in the community, whether it's from a finance background or professional networking or leadership, any type of background. And then after the guest speaker finishes, then we have a networking session where people can just mingle with each other and find out more about individuals in different industry areas. And it's just a great way to meet other Tamil professionals, because I find we're so engrossed in our daily lives, day-to-day lives, and we're all very well-established individuals, but we rarely find other well-established individuals as well. So this is a connection, having everyone in the same room. And it was great. Our event last year was in the Distillery District, in the Sterling Room, so it was very fancy. And
it's fancier this year. Where are you having
Yes,
it
it's fancier this year. So we upscaled to the Ritz-Carlton, which is at 181 Wellington Street.
That's lovely.
So Donna, if you'd like to come, please.
Coming.
So that's great. So again, give us the logistics. When is it? It's the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes. So it's at the Ritz-Carlton on Saturday, June the 9th, and it starts at 7 p.m. Tickets can be purchased online. You can email us at info@tamilalumni.ca, and we can provide you with the link to register. And it's really a great venue, because we have our guest speaker, who's Lisa Matham, and she's the founder of the Matham Group, which is a management consulting group. She's also the 2011 Entrepreneur of the Year winner from the Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. And her organization, Matham Group, is just based on leadership, organizational development, and strategic processes. So we're very fortunate to have her there. And in addition, our event is conjoined with the Canadian Tamil Chamber of Commerce.
That's right.
So this is our first joint event, so we're pretty excited about that as well.
That's wonderful. And they're actually a very strong organization.
Yes.
They donate heavily to sort of charities. You know, they had a gala event earlier on this year. But this is the booklet that we have from the gala event. 1,000 people. It was a sold-out event.
Yeah.
It's yet again. So I'm wonderful to hear that you guys are working together as well.
Exactly.
So what are some of the other programs that you run? Because there's a lot of other
Yes.
sort of little events that you hold through the year as well.
Yes, so we're well known for our annual professional networking events. In addition, we have workshops and seminars, which are all free. So recently in the fall of 2011, we had career-related workshops, and it was a 3-part series. So the first part was how to build on your resume, and then the second part was interviewing skills to master during interviews. And the third part, we had the opportunity to have Ahalya Kumaran, she's a very well-known leadership professional, and she was talking about how to sustain yourself in the job market, how to grow your career, and it was just very invaluable. In addition to that, we also have investment seminars, designation-related seminars, just whatever the public really needs. So we reach out to our members within the CTAA group and also to other individuals just from word of mouth and ask, what is it that you want that we can provide for you? So we have that, and in addition, we've started up a mentorship program, which is being driven by one of our board of directors.
I so believe in mentorship programs. That's great. Okay.
So we thought that after individuals finish university and they become professionals, they don't have access to the same career type centers or different type of workshops or whatever it is, right? So this gives them an opportunity to be a mentor or a mentee. So we interview different individuals for mentors, and then we pair up the mentees with the mentors. So it's a two-way benefit. Not only as a mentee do you get to network and develop skill sets and learn from these mentors, but mentors also learn to become people developers. And I believe in this day and age, not only are we required to be hardworking and diligent, we also need to develop ourselves and develop others, because that way we can grow within our career.
Well said.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being here.
Perfect.
That was wonderful. Really looking forward to this event. And Donna, looking forward to reading your next book, Cycles of Life.
I'm thrilled that you've got it. You're going to have to read it, and I'm going to have you as a guest on my radio program.
I'd love to.
So talk to Donna, so watch for it, and if you'd like to be a guest,
Oh, definitely.
I'm very happy to have you too.
This is lovely. We're networking. I've got to get to the rest of the show. Okay.
Yeah, this is great.
So we're going to take a break. You're watching CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Selvarajah. Welcome back to CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Selvarajah. The 10th Annual International Tamil Film Festival is around the corner, June 23rd to be exact. Here to tell us more are Rathan Raghu, the Program Director of the festival, and Tam Sivathasan, the Executive Director. Welcome to the event.
Thanks for having us.
So tell us about the film festival.
The film festival has been in place, like you said, for almost a decade, 2000 to be exact. It's like everything else, it started in the basement, so we hope one day it's going to be like Apple, but we are getting there anyway, right? So,
okay.
So we started screening movies and discussed among the enthusiasts and the filmmakers and budding entrepreneurs and all that, you know. So now this is the 10th. Actually, it's supposed to be the 11th, but we skipped 2009 one, so it's going to be 10th. And 10th film festival, so we have been screening movies from all over the world. Wow. The criteria is that movie has to be somehow involved a Tamil person, right?
Okay.
So either he could make the movie in English language, but his involvement has to be there, right? So mostly Tamils involved, and from Norway, France, England, Germany, India, Malaysia, Singapore, So several entries. On average, we get about 70 or 80 submissions a year.
That's substantial.
Yes.
And then we pre-screen them, and then we narrow it down to close to 10 to 12 movies to be screened.
And then on June 23rd itself, I mean, where does it happen? What time does it start? And this is open to the general public.
Yes.
So give us the
Yes.
logistics of that day.
Yeah, it's on June 23rd at Scarborough Civic Center. Starts at 12 o'clock noon sharp. And this time we are going with 2 feature film movies at 2 different places, plus another 10 to 12. The juries will decide which movies is going to be screened at the festival.
Okay.
Because juries is our final word. Whatever the movies they choose, we screen.
So what we do is when we get pre-screened submissions, around 30 to 40 films we screen the previous week in a separate place, and we invite all the jurors, and they will be narrowing it down to 10 to 12 movies.
And on that day itself, people can see 10?
No, not people, but these jurors.
The jurors, got it,
right?
okay.
So they will be making the shortlist on that day, right?
Okay.
So the whole day event, that is, right? That's only for those jurors and us, right?
Okay.
So those movies that we narrowed it down will be screened. At that time, they would have selected the awards for best movie,
because there's a
best
whole bunch of
script
awards
writers,
that go
whatever,
out
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Now, if people want to buy tickets or show up, where can they go for information?
They can buy it at the Scarborough Civic
entrance?
Center. Yes,
Okay.
it's $10 entrance fee.
Okay, and for more information, there's a website as
Yes,
well.
iafstamil.com.
Okay.
And also we are going to have a workshop the next day with Ramakrishnan, S. Ramakrishnan. He's a script writer. He's coming from India.
Yeah.
So we are having a workshop with him actually. It's the first come, first base.
Interesting.
So
And that'll be at the same location?
Same location, but the following day.
following day, yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So there really is an effort here to nurture filmmaking.
Yes.
So I've got a question for you. I'm always curious. Outside of India and Sri Lanka, like outside of there, where are you seeing that growth of sort of independent Tamil movie making? What countries are you seeing it in?
More in a way, it's a proliferation, I would say, in France. In France, it's young Tamil expatriates or Tamil refugees from Sri Lanka. You know, they see that the social issues coming to the front. You know, they have more time at their hands, perhaps, I don't know. But not only that, Paris is an art capital anyway, right?
Okay, so it's an environment that sort of nurtures.
There is one thing. There is an organization called LIFT.
Okay.
All the filmmakers is gathered and make an organization LIFT. They are one promoting actually. The other one is sending all the movies to different festivals. Like we also do that. Okay, whenever any festivals calls, we send the movies. So the same thing.
Okay.
They are also doing the
And
same
also
thing.
we make networking here.
Yeah.
Many festival organizers, right?
I know you're on the board of the Regent Park Film Festival.
Yes.
So
Last week we had one South Asian
visual arts. We are the one actually. We were at the panel
Supplied,
discussion also.
the movies,
So we are the one giving all the movies actually. So they choose from based on that.
Okay.
So, and one thing actually, if we talk about current Tamil cinema, that's going to be Exile cinema is the first thing, because outside India there are a lot of good movies making. Even in India, if you get around 60 to 70 movies from India, it's very hard to choose juries for 1 or 2 movies. This has been going on last 3-4 years. So
because they are kind of accustomed to the feature films and then
the commercial
the
industry.
commercialized films. So the criteria for a short film is not well taken by makers from India.
Yeah.
But whereas Tamils of Elam origin, right, they see things differently. You know, I think I don't want to discriminate between these two, but
there is a clear difference.
Another thing is we are carrying, each and every household, each and every person carries actually pain and struggles of the exile life.
Yeah.
If we make it in a proper format, we are one of the best countries making.
Definitely grief and frustration has led to a lot of great art being created.
Yes.
I mean, so the other thing that I have to ask you is, I wonder if the way that technology has changed with the internet, with it being easier,
media,
I mean, do you think that's actually paved the path for people that may not have, a trust fund or a large group of investors behind them to put out their vision on film? Do you think
that's a good question?
Yeah, absolutely. It's internet, since the introduction of internet, right? Every poor man is enabled, is equipped to bring his expression of his feelings and all that, because it's cheaper, right? All you have to have is a Mac computer and then editing software and then a small camera, off you go, right? And also putting these things, their creations, right? If they don't have stages to promote them, they can put it on YouTube, on their social media and all that. So we tend to see people coming out with excellent ideas, and then how they portray the taboos in our society and the stigmas that they bring it out as social issues. So all these social medias and the internet revolution have definitely tremendously helped
Again,
people, and it's marvelous. And then that's why. But the important thing is that, like on the SAG, I said, we feel like out of place and out of times, right?
Yeah.
It's time for young people to take it and run, right? So, and then they are coming out in droves, and I think it's a good sign. It's a good sign.
And again, we received a movie last year made by cell phone.
Really?
Yes, 2 movies. I forgot the movie's name, but it's a two minutes movie.
That tells you about the quality of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You won't see the difference, actually.
So now, if these technologies exist and they're providing people a platform to publicize their work, why do we still need film festivals? There's so many film festivals. There's the TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, the Punjabi Film Festival. What do you think film festivals add?
It adds. It's a person. If you have a talented person, talented movie maker, you have to provide some kind of forum for him to be above the crowd, like a award kind of categorizing that you are a winner, you are standing above the crowd from other people, so people get elevated, right? Because they say, oh, you got winner, you are winner for script writing, right? So that guy, he can go and publicize that, so that will make him entry to another film festival. So he got
or entry to maybe for an investor to give him money to...
Exactly. So many things it opens up when you give them forum, right?
So now, from my understanding, you're both accountants by trade. Is that right?
No. I'm an electrical engineer,
and you're an accountant. So very different professions.
Yes,
we're not talking about but you volunteer for this organization.
Yes.
So as two people that seem to really care about independent filmmaking in this community, do you have a message for the community about whether they should support this industry? Like, is there a message that you want to get out to the greater community?
Yeah, actually, the people has to come and see the movies first, and people has to talk to the movie makers, positive or negative. Then only that the movie industry will go up. Okay, because other thing is we don't want to follow the same Indian commercial industry, because our target is not like that. We have been actually one of our main thing actually to create our own language, own film language actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's our main target actually.
Yeah.
We have been doing that actually. Several of our short films already screened at various film festivals, so-called Berlin or Cannes actually. So we are going towards that way. Okay, but we have to be more actually.
So people have to support this.
Yes.
Have to support. I think art is something that opens up the soul, right?
Yeah.
So when the soul is open, you can put anything and everything in, right? So when the people see the visual thing, when they see that the young person is making his effort, he spends all kind of money to make this movie, and then if it's not appreciated, he will be. He will lose faith in the community. He will lose interest in it, right? So his creativity is not going to be nurtured. Right?
Well, I'll tell you, I think you're providing a great platform for that, and thank you so much for coming on this show. So people heard it. It's June 23rd. I hope our audience shows up in droves for it. And we'll have you back on again, perhaps to talk about the results. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having us, and thanks for giving us the platform.
Our pleasure. That wraps up our show for today. Here are my final thoughts for the show, and it'll be about the value of networking. More than a decade ago, I saw Donna Messer give a speech on networking to a large audience of women. She said something that day that was a key moment of change for me. She said, when you network, you do not do that just for yourself and for your immediate benefit, but for others in your network. So when your good friend is looking for a caregiver for her elderly parents, or your coworker is looking for a chiropractor, or your neighbor's son is looking for a job, you can help. And one day, some of these things you've done will come back to you. Networking facilitates that. Those referrals are just as valuable as your time and money. I'm still working on getting better at the skill, but I do feel it has moved mountains for me. I hope you consider putting in some effort in this area, and if you want to, I would recommend 2 books. Donna Messer's Effective Networking Strategies, she was just on the show, and this one's a favorite, Keith Ferrazzi's Never Eat Alone. Thank you all for joining us. You've been watching Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. Have a wonderful week.